Once again, you are here with me today, and I've got a great show with you today, and not to put a lot of pressure on my guest today, but there's a lot of pressure on this guest today because not only is he really enjoyable to talk to, but he has not one, but two different radio shows coming out from California on octalkradio.biz, the Raad Life, every single Wednesday at noon Pacific time. And on the first and third Wednesdays of the month, check out California at 1 p.m. Pacific time. I was fortunate enough recently to be on that show, so check out the No Vacancy feed because they were nice enough to provide me with a copy of that show, and you guys could hear us all banter back and forth. So now I want to bring on who's also, if that's not enough, not only does he have two shows, but of course he's a designer very well known in the hospitality industry. And this is the man whose name is probably the most appropriate name to the personality I've ever met in my life, and that's Raad Ghantous of Raad Ghantous and Associates. How are you, sir?
You are hired, Glenn. You are hired, my friend.
Well, actually, this whole podcast is just a scheme in order to get to work for you, Raad.
That's hilarious. You know what? I felt the same way when we got you on the Check Out California show a couple of weeks ago.
Oh, man, that was much fun.
And I think when you say banter, yes, I think the listeners are in for a real treat as bantering, and the bantering could not be the same without my illustrious, also, well, I should say infamous or maybe well-known personality who co-hosts the show with me, and that is my friend and your friend, our good buddy, Craig Sullivan.
Yes, although he should probably change his name to Weiss, I would say. You know, that's what I'm thinking.
Well, he's a wise man, is where I was going. You know, he's Greg the Wise Man Sullivan, and that wisdom comes from both his Irish lineage as well as his tradition and time in the industry. But but we had a great time having you on there. Thanks again for being on there, and thanks again for having me on your show. I mean, this is also a milestone for me because when I was chuckling when you were saying not only one but two radio shows. Yeah, well, you know what? You're a hard, you're a hard example to follow, my friend. Right? I mean, you've been doing this for a long time, and it really has been very inspirational. And I was fortunate enough to be asked to do one radio show, and then I think I was having too much fun with it, and that's when Craig said, "Look, you're having too much fun. I need to get in on this." And that's when we came up with the Check Out California hospitality focused show, which has been really great. And I encourage everybody to listen to our show whenever they can. The other show that you definitely need to listen to, but you're already doing it, is No Vacancy with Mr. Hausman here, because I listen to it all the time, and it really is. I'm not just blowing smoke. It really is very informational. I think it gives a insight to the industry that I use every day. So I hope to be able to add to your listenership today. And thanks again for having me on.
Sure, thanks. All right, so let's try. I want to move on beyond this mutual love fest that we're having for each other and actually give our listeners something to put out there. But I will say, I highly encourage you to listen to Check Out California in particular. Don't say to yourself, it's only about California. It's only about California. California is the fifth largest economy in our country, and what happens in California is relevant throughout the United States and throughout the world. So be sure to check that out. All right, Raad. Now, in your day-to-day life, you are actually in the design field, which I love about you. I find it impossible to do design myself, but you do a lot of specialty in commercial design, hospitality design, residential design, and just universal. Whatever it is, you focus on it. But recently, I feel that you've been focusing a lot on spas and restaurants and retail, and really helping them understand the whole value proposition of repositioning. It's not just about slapping on a new coat of paint or changing the look and feel of the place. It's a lot deeper than that. So what are some of the trends that you're seeing out there?
Well, it should be a lot deeper than that. Unfortunately, and with dire consequences, we don't have that happening all the time. And I came at the design in and with the hospitality focus from working with a couple of very large industry giants, WAT&G and Hirsch Bedner for a number of years, and realized that the level of sophisticated consultancy that we were giving in the design areas was something that was lacking when it came to smaller boutique properties or mom and pops, or even in more lucrative markets, repositioning of properties.
Right.
And my background prior to design was business, and so what we have basically developed into the last 10 years of more plus or minus that we'll be being in business under my own flag is that we realize that there's a major need for a very sophisticated, fully integrated consultancy, a business consultancy that happens to include the aesthetic environment, three-dimensional branded space, if you will. But it really had to be driven by business focus. It had to be driven by realities such as, failure rates. And we, like you said, we do focus on day spas. We do or resort spas. We just finished a day spa. We're working on a repositioning of a resort spa, components in a resort spa, and actually in a resort property in Southern California right now. But we also try to bring that same level of interest and sort of very customized service to everything from we're doing a dementia care, 120 bed dementia care situation in Stanton, 3 building ground up, which again, here's the medical and the sort of the senior care trying to dovetail into more of a hospitality offering.
Absolutely.
Same thing with medical offices. And again, this is all driven by expectations that people have. It's driven by, that this is discretionary income that's being spent. And just to give you a little bit of background on as far as failure rates, you got 82% of salon day spas don't celebrate 10 years of being in business.
Yeah, well, which isn't surprising to me because a lot of these day spas that open up with the idea of, oh, hey, I'm a great masseuse or whatever it might be, and that's all it has to be. But I don't think the customer approaches visiting these places and experiencing them as part of their lives in the same way that the owners would think that they're going to be experiencing them.
Well, and it's even more critical. I mean, let's just do the very simple math, right? If somebody's setting up a day spa, or it could even be a resort spa. In fact, back in the day when you had a property, then an amenity. Let's talk about it being whether it's a restaurant or whether it was a spa component or a cafe or a bar or whatever, right?
Right.
Inside a signature property, or if you had them as standalones. So the rules used to apply differently. The ones that were sort of protected by being inside a resort property, they seem to be able to just basically get along and keep the amenity going, and it was there to basically be an added service as part of your experience of being on that property. Not anymore, because even though those properties are pretty much built out, they're still calculating that there's X number of square feet that are either at a real estate value of X, or that are leased in the case of freestanding ones. And so you, as a person who's a F&B manager or a spa director, you're basically saddled with justifying why your space of X number of square feet should be allocated to this function that is generating what kind of return. And if you cannot justify, quantify, and measure those returns, it's harder, even though you are shielded by being part of a corporate structure, to justify your existence.
Right. That makes a lot of sense, Raad. And I'll tell you something. As a guest, I can't necessarily justify going to these places when they're charging $150, $175 an hour, plus tips for a massage that I feel like I could just get elsewhere. They just don't seem to understand that full value proposition, which I think is robbing them of opportunity.
Funny enough, Glenn, it isn't even elsewhere anymore.
Yeah.
Okay. Because there's such things as what we kind of lovingly say in the industry, called in the industry the Uber for massage. You've got services like Soothe, and you got services like Zeal that basically are app driven, where you have the ability to book a massage, okay, and have it come to you wherever you are. And here's where it becomes really, really interesting. It used to be that if you wanted to get a massage, let's say,
right,
or you would basically have to book it in advance. You'd have to look at your calendar and say, okay, on Wednesday in the afternoon, I might have an opening. I'm going to call and see if I can get in for a massage.
Right.
Now you can pick up that app and you can dial in within an hour of, like, let's say it's 10 o'clock. I want one at 11. As early as 11 o'clock, I can book a therapist to come to me to give me a massage. And the going rate is about $100.
Yeah.
Now, if I am in a resort property, okay, now I might have a hard time getting that masseuse through the front door.
That's right.
But I've had people actually call massage therapists and have them come to hotel rooms to give them massages that are at $99 versus $150 down in the hair salon, in the spa downstairs.
Right.
And so that is competition. anything within a 30-minute drive or a 30-mile radius, if you will, from any property, be it resort, be it standalone, you have to know what your market is doing. You
Right.
have to know what the offerings in that market are. You need to know that the product lines that the inventory that you spend top dollar to get on your shelves isn't just going to sit there and collect dust because there's a salon down the street from your property that basically has the same product and they usually carry it at 60% off.
Right. Let me tell you, Rad. Someone I know very well may have introduced me to that Soothe app, and I used it at a hotel in Orange County, California, and I found it to be great. It wasn't a resort property, but it was awesome to have somebody come to my room and provide me that massage, and then get the heck out of there, and I didn't have to go anywhere. And then further, I had another experience where I was staying at a super, super expensive luxury resort, speaking at an event, and I wanted to get a massage. Instead of getting it there for $200 an hour, I used the internet, and I found a great Thai massage place where for like $75, this
Yep.
nice woman walked on my back and made me feel super amazing for a third of the price. I mean, so that makes it really tough for owners and operators to really compete in this particular segment because of this technological upheaval. So how are you able to counter that through the design elements that you're putting into these properties? And it's got to be something more than just having pretty fixtures.
Well, no, it's not. In many cases, the assumption of comfort, the assumption of certain quality, be it visual or in terms of the services,
Right.
that's kind of a give. It's like a given.
Right.
I mean, that's almost like a starting point, not an end point anymore. Imagine if you were looking at 10 restaurants in your area and you were going to decide which ones to go to, you'll probably shut off or three of those because they have bad service, for example, right off the bat. You won't even give them another chance.
Right.
First time you go in and you don't get that kind of experience you expect as a minimum. Then you're going to have these other 7. Well, as a basic expectation on your part, and we are becoming more and more inundated with information and Yelp reviews and all this stuff all the time, right? And so we are pretty sophisticated consumers these days, I think. I mean, garbage in, garbage out, be
Right.
that the primary premise. However, there's a lot of good information out there, and I'm thankful for that. But what it makes it is this. If you go into that space and your expectations should be as a minimum, and the business owner should expect that this is the minimum they deliver on, is quality of service, quality of product, whether it's food or whether it's the actual elements that are being used, the cream, the oils, whatever, that they've got all the buzzwords in there. They're organic, they're hypoallergenic,
Right.
all of that stuff. Right? The environment is clean. The environment is pleasant, at least as a minimum, right? Those are all minimal expectations. So anybody who's going in and doesn't understand that they have to at least deliver on those, they shouldn't even go the first step. But that is not enough. That is not enough. So the aesthetic. I'll give you a perfect example. I had a couple of clients come to me and say, "Oh, we want to set up a spa, or we want to set up a restaurant. Oh, and I want to put a chandelier and a water feature." And I'm like, "Okay, so what chandelier, what water feature kind of thing do you like? Do you want?" And so they show you 4 or 5 pictures of chandeliers and water features in other restaurants, in a couple of cases where within 30-mile radius. And I'm thinking, okay, so there's no differentiation of brand. There's no unique value proposition through your facility. And the rule of thumb is this. I'll tell your listeners, I'll tell you, if you can walk into a place and you can imagine their logo taken off the wall and another logo put on that wall, and
Right.
that business would still operate to the equal level of success, then that business that you just walked into does not have a unique brand identity, does not have a unique experience promise, right? And without that, you don't survive the 3 years, which is a lot of people talk about 50. A lot of 90% of restaurants fail in the first year. That's not true, actually. The data shows that 59 to 60% of restaurants fail within the first 3 years.
Right.
Okay, so imagine that. That's even worse than failing in the first year.
I think so, because then you're just limping along, not closing.
Well, and you're constantly dumping capital,
Yeah.
capital money in there, not enough money to operate, which is, by the way, the number one reason. I mean, I'm not making it all about aesthetics. The number one reason why businesses fail, which makes common sense, whether it be restaurants or, for example, spas and hair salons, is there not enough money, right?
Right.
But then the next one right after that, and it's equal in both sectors, is the lack of a business vision, plan, or brand definition. That is number 2 on there. Now, when you go, well, what's brand definition and business vision got to do
Right.
with what you guys do? Well, we really like to think that our services are business consultancy services that happen to also involve and include how you deal with the skin of your business. How do you deal with the stage upon which you perform your business visually? Scent, sound, smell, materials, color palette. And how do you do it where that is not just something I saw in a Z Gallery catalog this quarter because it's what everybody's buying in preparation for fall, but it's actually something that's uniquely enough positioned that it can sustain you past that 3-year critical point for restaurants, get you into that 10-year survival. Because at the end of the day, if your business is successful, not only will it sustain you, but it's also an asset that you can turn around and sell.
Right.
If you choose to get out of the business. And I've had a spa that one of the first ones that I did back in 2004, I think was. Oh my God, I just dated myself.
But you did it out of elementary school. I know, Raad.
Yeah. Thank you. That the check's in the mail. That's the second check you earned today. But really, they sold that business. Now I'll give you a little background. The lady had 1,000 square foot spa.
Right.
That she was operating. She had probably grown into that to 1,000 square feet. It basically consisted of a couple massage rooms, a couple of shelves of retail, front desk. It was in a particular shopping center in Southern California in a coastal community, and she had an opportunity to take over a space within the same shopping center, relocate her business to a more street visible location, and take over again, we're dating ourselves, an old warehouse music store, which was 5,000 square feet.
Right.
So you're going from 1,000 square feet to 5,000 square feet. Okay,
that's a colossal jump and a very different way you need to look at your business operations.
Okay, so I have a client, as a perfect example for what we're talking about is I had a client. She has actually since left the business. However, on her own terms. And here's what happened. She was operating 1,000 square foot spa in a coastal community in California. She had an opportunity, which was basically 2 massage rooms, couple of shelves of retail, front desk, nice shopping center, but nothing like very high end. It's just proximity of a walking downtown.
Right, seems very manageable.
She had been in the business about 15 years at that point.
Right.
So she had a book of business. She had a book of clients. She had a regular flow of clients. She had built this business. And basically lived in a house which she had a mortgage on down the street. Well, she had an opportunity to basically take over a 5,000 square foot, what used to be a warehouse music store in the same shopping center, in the same downtown area, and put in and expand her business.
Right.
Now, why I take the time to outline this is that if you want to hold certain variables fixed, her location didn't change really. Her book of business, it wasn't like she was starting from the beginning. She actually had 15 years worth of clientele to come in the door. However, when we moved her from a 1,000 to a 5,000 square foot facility, she already had two design firms or spa consultants that had come in and given her drawings for the space.
Right.
And the drawings for the space, one was done by a company that basically is in the business of selling cabinets, and therefore it was loaded with cabinets, about $30,000 worth of cabinets that she would never use. And the other one actually had the front door entry to the spa, a holistic, feng shui sensitive environment, behind a brick column on the corner of the building.
Nice.
So you had to go around the column to get into the double doors, right? Yeah. So my point is this. I looked at it, and I told her, I remember very clearly, I said, look, I can make it pretty or I can do it right.
Right.
And when we looked at it, her business model was going to shift to where it was 5 times the business in order to sustain 7 treatment rooms. Exactly. I mean, it's scary. It's scary. I don't know that I would have the wherewithal to want to take on something like that in that particular industry unless I had some serious, sophisticated consultancy guidance and people on my team.
Right.
And she had to look. We had to look at terms of revenue from retail because the retail revenue in spas is not hindered or burdened by labor costs because it's basically sells itself by sitting on a shelf.
Right.
But you need to allocate enough square footage to make that experience of retail interesting enough for somebody to walk in either off the street to buy stuff or to come in and while they're there having services, maybe buy stuff and then you get them, So all of this had to be thought through. Well, I'd like to really think about this as a success story because 5 or 6 years later, and she took, by the way, a second mortgage on her house to make this expand.
Scary.
Right? This is in 2004. It opened its doors in 2004. So this was still in a healthy economy, right, before we had major.
Right.
So she ran that business. She had to completely revamp how she addressed her PR.
Right.
How she addressed her HR because she had more personnel. Were we going to do the laundry on site or send it out because that's a major drain of monies that goes out the door if you send out the service if you can do it in house, and so forth and so on. Well, she ran that business successfully to the point where when she went to sell it, the design concept or the skin that we packaged this business to look and feel and offer was so strong that based on that and the everything being in stellar on the books, she sold that business it was very attractive for an investor to come and buy.
Right. Right.
She paid off her second mortgage. She sold her business.
Good for her.
She retired for her husband. Right. So my point is this. Look, there are some key elements in all these businesses, whether, again, I will repeat, whether they are in a property where they are under the purview of a corporate, but still they are answerable to corporate on whether they are a complete drain on capital. Right?
Right.
And so there are some elements that are sort of common when it comes to any kind of business: retail, restaurants, and spas or hair salons. Retail tends to be a little bit more shielded if you're in a good location and you have a good enough mix. However, you better be ready to compete with the likes of Amazon, right? Because that's there. So low startup capital tends to I have seen that happen with people with more money than sense being taught to locations that do not fit the business model or the business that they're trying to put up.
Right. One of the things that I see that I've noticed in my whole life, and my mom actually brought this to the point when I was a teenager or something. It seemed like all the super popular restaurants in our neighborhood were small hole-in-the-wall places, and then they would expand because whatever, the store next to them opened or they moved down the block, whatever, to have this big giant facility, and then the businesses just went to hell, like almost immediately. The quality dropped, the experience dropped, and a lot of those businesses faded away. So I love that you say that you could shield against this sort of stuff.
Well, you can, but you have to start from the very beginning. You have to literally have, and this is why. I mean, listen, honestly, we truly believe that our best work as a company is accomplished when we address the complex and unique business challenges that are we have an innovative strategic process, which really is aimed to create through full integration, like I was saying, of services with our design services, those experiences that make that business have a higher success potential, if you will, designing for success.
Right.
But we're not limited just to the design component, although it is integral because it is the stage upon which you perform your business. And if the stage upon which you perform your business is telling a West Side Story when your business is a Hamlet, there's a problem, right? So from whether it's hotels, whether it's restaurants, spas, wellness centers, right? Even offices. I mean, these days with Google Maps basically showing interiors of offices.
Right.
If you're thinking of being hired by a company or thinking of applying for employment, and you go look up their address and you see the front lobby looks like crap with a whole bunch of boxes, it's not really going to give you an impression that you really want to go get hired by that. So everybody in a world that is very visual has to be aware of the visuals, but the visuals cannot just be visuals, cannot be just aesthetics. They have to be backdrops, stop and repeats, marketing things that show up on Instagram. But you have to really plan for that. You have to, if you don't execute everything in day one, you have to have a master plan of where you want to end up as a business.
Right.
And what do you want to project? So we offer not just the design services to be that one-stop resource, but we do operational planning meetings, we do market studies, competitive set analysis, we do feasibility analysis. We even coordinate website and graphic identity and logo development, brand identity development, and I'll tell you why. Because if we are working on a color palette, if we're working on a set of visuals, if we're working on some sort of pattern on that back wall of the restaurant or the lobby of the hotel or whatever, shouldn't the website that we are developing or being developed at the same time incorporate some of those pieces in there?
Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah, that makes
a
lot of sense to create that sense of uniformity.
Right, and these days that goes all the way to apps as well. You can't just stop at the website. How does your app? What does your app look like? Does it continue to tell the touch and feel, vibe, experiential kind of promise that your brand presents in the physical environment, on the website, in the way the phone is answered? I mean, you and I both know this, right? You can pick up the phone, you can call the same call center that's answering the phone for a 3-star hotel property, and then the person right next to that person answering the phone on 3-star property in the same call center, could be halfway across the planet, is answering for a 5-star hotel property. And if you hear, hello, good morning, the whatever hotel, can I help you? You get one impression, and if you pick up the phone and they say, it's a wonderful day at the da-da-da, how may I be of service?
Right.
You get a complete impression.
Yes. And then there's the other phone call that I make where they answer the phone and they go, we're experiencing unusual call volumes today. Please stand by.
Or what happened to me yesterday, Glenn, okay?
Yeah.
Restaurants that have their telephone number on their friggin' Google Maps or on their websites, and they don't answer, and they get this was a high-end restaurant in Los Angeles. I called within operating hours, and all I could get through was a push 9 for the directory. It was actually a corporate thing. I'm like, how do you not do that? Because they make reservations on your website. However, I understand the convenience to them on an operational site to have you book on the website. But what if I was calling actually to find out if I could get in there to pick up something? Who's answering that phone?
Right.
And I'm not kidding you, this is a popular high-end restaurant on the west side of Los Angeles that basically nobody answered the phone for a period of 2 hours. I finally gave up.
Wow.
So all of these pieces, who is watching them, making sure that, like a ringmaster almost, that all these pieces are part of what is seamlessly delivered on.
And I think that really sums up the whole issue very, very nicely and succinctly, Raad, because most people are focused on their one little corner. You've got your web development team. You've got the guy that's going to design, say, your spa or your restaurant. You have an operations team, and there's not enough communication between all of those moving elements to pull them all together.
So here's where it gets kind of also crazy, because that failure, that breakdown, is not limited to a small operation that has, a mom and pop or somebody who's basically, this is their business, they're building this is the only thing they're focusing on. Because in those cases, they don't know what to look for, unless you've gone through the hard learning lessons that are very costly. You don't know that you need to make sure these pieces are intermingled and aligned. But that also goes all the way to a larger corporate structure where everybody is so positioned in their set of responsibilities that there is no bridging that is happening.
Right.
You look at your calendar and you got a website design meeting at 10. And then you're going to meet and do a walkthrough with the designers at 12. And you're going to draw certain people from your team on certain things. You'll have engineering on the design walkthrough. You'll have marketing on maybe the website thing. You might not even take it. So everybody's doing their job. But who's telling the website people, you got to coordinate with the people doing the creative package for the space?
Right.
Who's talking with them about to talk to operations and make sure that you're, we are doing the pre-press, the public relations component, the pre-opening sales and marketing. Is that falling on the operator side, or are you bringing that in as part of that creative team that is setting up the business for success, be it inside a corporate environment or a hotel property or a standalone? The list that I just gave you, some of this stuff, right? Mm-hmm. Basically, it can happen in a sequential order. There's almost a rationale to it. You got to do your pre-planning. You got to do, put these elements in place. Everybody go and do their things, but you got to continuously integrate and coordinate to make sure everything is in line. But then it doesn't stop when you open your doors either. Do you have things put into the system? Do you have things that are on your shelf? Do you have things that are placed so that you can have post-opening audits?
Right.
And then making adjustments. And again, like I said, a lot of people, when they're listening to me, are going, but this is business. This is not interior design. Mm-hmm. Well, it's actually, the two are seamless, or should be. Because that's what people deserve to get. If you are in a brick and mortar environment, you're paying X number of dollars in terms of property value or in terms of lease every month.
Right.
If you have a 3,000 square foot restaurant at $5 a square foot, before you even open on your doors and turn on the lights, you're paying $15,000 a month. How many covers does that you have to make in order for that to be basically a sustainable model? You got staff. You got human resources costs, right. You got PR costs, you got advertising, all of that. And if your environment, if the stage upon which you perform your business is not just pleasantly aesthetic, but actually is an actually engaged component, an engine in the making of your business success, then you're not getting what you should be getting for the money that you spend on consultancy.
Perfect. So, all right, to wrap it all up, I think I could put it into 2 words: more cabinets, right? That's what we learned from today. Just lots and lots of cabinets.
Yeah, more cabinets, definitely more cabinets. Yeah, because nothing says more nothing says more spacious and inviting than a room full of cabinets. If you now listen, I can make that work too, Glenn. Right?
I bet you could.
If your business happens to be a
selling
storage
cabinets
business,
yeah,
then I can make sure that it's efficiently placed with all the cabinets you want. But yeah, no, I mean it's serious. I mean, a lot of businesses open their doors having spent a lot of money, and in many cases they underestimate the working capital that they need in order to sustain themselves over the hump, right, to get through that 3 years or whatever. So $35,000, $25,000 may seem not like a drop in the bucket over a $250,000 project. However, when that means it's 2 people or 3 people's salaries for 6 months,
right,
that are critical in making sure that your doors are open and everything is seamless, and you don't have that, you just shot yourself in the foot.
Right. Great. I love it. All right. Last question for you before we wrap up today. How do you feel about toll roads coming to San Clemente?
Those toll roads are probably as useful as those cabinets we were talking about.
Right, exactly. If you guys want to find out what I'm talking about, make sure you check out Raad Ghantous online on Facebook and wherever you check in. He's a big proponent to be fighting against this ridiculous toll road.
Actually, it's a perfect segue. Thank you, Glenn, for setting it up. Yes, first of all, on record, no toll road in San Clemente, no toll roads in South County. But because what is at stake is that unique brand position for this part of the county in Orange County that would basically be devastated, because what is currently impacting equity values in homes higher, the quality of life, people coming in here, and these are communities that are built out. So this tourism draw, this quality of life has a direct, measurable, quantifiable impact on the economic engine of these communities. To then come and slash through the hills with a big double-decker concrete toll road, not only is it a shameful thing to propose, but it has an absolute dire impact on the business and the quality of life value in this community.
Yeah, I also think toll roads like that are really just for the rich people and are very anti lower income folks.
Yeah. Well, there is a certain amount. Some people will say, and I tend to agree, there's a certain amount of economic discrimination because when the toll rates are $7 each way, or on the 91 freeway, which is further north a little bit from us, it's $20 each way during rush hour, and these are tolls. Well, you might as well just call them what they are. They're taxes.
Right.
They're taxes, and they're taxes on property that basically was supposed to be returned to the public many years ago, but has not been able to sustain itself as a business model, and therefore they keep pushing the bond payback further along and wanting to build more roads to try to cover the cost. Yeah. So again, I don't know. It's like the one form of businesses that are out there that are completely financially unsustainable that somehow seem to survive. But don't get me off the topic.
It's too late. We've already gone off the rails here, Raad. We'll try to save it for our next Toll Talk show. All right.
But Toll Talk, Toll Talk. There's a new radio show.
But for now, I'd like to hear a good shameless plug from you, Raad Ghantous. How can we find you?
Well, thanks for sharing the website earlier, but raadghantous.com, RAADGHANTOUS.com. We're in the process of revamping the website to include a lot of this sort of business component to make it easy for people to understand what we're talking about. But this is part of the reason why I'm doing the show. I want people to understand that they deserve and can get this kind of sophisticated concept, package of services. You can also find me on Facebook, RAADGHANTOUS. Raad Ghantous and Associates is a Facebook page as well, Instagram, House. Pretty much if you start typing RAAD, and then you throw a G in there, at least it's going to come up on the web.
I got your name popped up right after RAA in my Google. I'm trying it right now. And if you want to friend him on Facebook, do it quick because he only has room for 2 more friends, or 3, because I'm sure he'll be happy to kick me to the curb if one of you guys want to join him too.
We always have room for friends. And you can, and actually let me do this, okay? Because sometimes it is difficult through social media. Believe it or not, if anybody would like to call. My cell phone number is 949-212-8299. Give me a call. It goes directly to me. You don't get any automated system that says push 9 for anything. And I'm more than happy to talk to people if they're in the process of starting something, or they're frustrated because they've been in business but they seem to be losing market share. What do I do? Sometimes the hardest thing is for people that are so close to the trees. This is for all of us. You're so close to the trees you can't see the forest anymore. Right. And the forest is changing so fast that it is nice to have some alternative viewpoints added to your conversation.
Great. Raad Ghantous, you're a designer, business champion, and maybe even a business therapist as well. I love it, Raad. Great talking with you today.
Thanks, Glenn. Always a pleasure, my friend.
I want to thank everybody for listening to this very special episode of the No Vacancy podcast. It was a lot of fun talking to Raad, and I hope you learned as much as I did. I realize at this point there's no way that I can go ahead and create a business without utilizing someone like Raad to give me that full 360-degree perspective. So thanks again for listening. That is, unless I decide to just quit this job and go and open up a spa right across from Raad's house. Thanks for listening. See you all next week.